Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. This is our last NRL one of the year. I say NRL one because super coaches out there, get ready. Tomorrow is a huge day, or today when you are listening to this. We'll be mad into our laptops, phones, getting all the super coach data for you guys. And myself, Trav, and Jesse will be on tomorrow night to give you all of our opinions, our thoughts, our first teams as well. That'll be a huge episode. But for NRL side of things, this is the final one, so I hope you all enjoy it. I'll do the thank yous at the end of this episode, so we have time to get into it. And while I've got everyone listening, if you are a business out there, if you've got a small, large, medium, whatever sort of business it is, we're still on the lookout for a couple of spots. Majority of spots have filled up. It's been a crazy week in terms of sponsors and everyone wanting to jump on, which is awesome to see how much the page is growing. Please reach out via Instagram, Facebook, or even an email, and I will get back to you and try and organize a package with you as well. But going to do something a little bit different this last one. Something that's going to happen a lot more in 2025 for the podcast. One of our sponsors, Jason from Xvisory, who's actually part of the League of Inches crew as well. He's going to come on from time to time and talk about anything that's happening sort of in the law and order sort of world. We had that old lawyer and order segment, which we just ran out of time for, unfortunately. But you guys seem to enjoy it. So he's going to come on. There's obviously been two cases that has been really in the media the last couple of days. Good timing for us, I guess. But Jason's going to come on with his background, explain it a little bit more to us so he can understand things, and then have an open discussion about it for the first half an hour of this podcast tonight and then into the future in 2025 as well. So, Jason, first of all, thank you for jumping on again for 2025. You were a sponsor 2024 for those ticketed giveaway. Good to have you on as well for 2025.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, good to be here. I really appreciate the plug-in as well. Yeah, everyone might remember that I'm a lawyer by trade, but then my Xvisory business is more about business consulting. But happy to come on and talk about issues that are hot topics, legal issues, and have a discussion about it. Of course, everyone knows we're not giving legal advice or anything like that if we go into some of the finer details, and don't take anything that we say too seriously. But we're here to discuss hot topics, and let's get stuck in.
All right, let's do it. So Sandon Smith first. So I'll just quickly read out a little paragraph of what came out with the media sort of release out there. So rising Sydney Roosters playmaker Sandon Smith has avoided a conviction over his role in a car accident that resulted in a pedestrian having two toes amputated. The 22-year-old halfback faced Sydney's Downing Centre local for sentencing on Friday after pleading guilty to a serious driving offence relating to the March 31st incident that was described by his lawyers as an unfortunate chain of events. Jason, please let us know a bit more about this Sandon Smith incident.
Well, I agree. If I was his lawyer, I would have called it a series of unfortunate events. He's coming out of his driveway. These are the agreed facts. He's coming out of his driveway. It's said that he was cautiously inching out. He's then hit on the side by a Toyota Hilux, I believe it was, and which has forced his car into a parked car. That parked car has then hit a pedestrian and very unfortunately caused enough damage to his foot, fractures, and had to have two toes severed. It's seriously just a freak accident. He was charged with, I think it was negligent driving, causing grievous bodily harm. So grievous bodily harm just means that something more serious in terms of physical damage to somebody. So usually cuts, broken arms. In this instance, of course, a fractured foot and severed toes. That's grievous bodily harm. And he has been part of it or some sort of contribution to that. The magistrate did say that his culpability in terms of how much he has caused the incident was quite low, and that was one of the factors that they considered in his sentencing. He was very fortunate to get a Section 10, which basically means that you don't get a conviction, but you get some sort of punishment. The punishment was what's known now as a conditional release order, which is the old good behaviour. So basically, he's got 2 years to be on good behaviour, no record at the moment. He got good old Uncle Nick and Trent Robertson to give him some character references to say that he's a great guy. He's got a clean traffic record. He's going to do the traffic offenders program. He said that he was quite apologetic and very remorseful as well. Hasn't affected his career, but that's the situation. He's got the 2-year good behaviour, and I think just really this one is just a freak accident, and he's just wrong place, wrong time.
It certainly seems that way. I definitely agree with you with this one, and I remember a lot of people out there trying to put this alongside the Ezra Mams stuff, which we will get to. Not going to get there yet, but with all the what you've mentioned and the details that have come out regarding this case, so far apart, it's not funny. A freak accident. That negligent driving side, is that more so him like reversing out, perhaps not looking the both ways or properly like you should, driving out of a driveway, and that's probably why he got that charge?
Yeah, I think it'd be the fact that the facts suggested that he had a obstructed view, so he wasn't able to see exactly what he was doing, and perhaps he's come out a little bit too fast or inched a bit too far into the road, and that's where the negligent aspect comes from, and unfortunately, then causing the GBH, the grievous bodily harm, to somebody else. So that's why the charge is a bit more serious, because somebody did get quite injured. But again, it's I'm sure everyone's done this before, and they've sort of inched out a bit too much, and maybe thankfully avoided an accident. At this time, unfortunately, it was a 3-car accident, and a pedestrian was very unfortunately injured.
I forgot it. I was too excited to get a new one here tonight. Got to introduce the other two boys along with me as well. But Trav, welcome to the last NRL potty for the year. What are your thoughts around the Sandon Smith case?
I think Jace summed that up really well. I don't think there's much in this. It is what it is, unfortunately. The freak accidents in this kind of nature happen. I don't feel like, based off the evidence that has been presented to us and what Jace has given as a really good explanation, and how bloody lucky are we as a group to have that helped give to us. So thanks, Jace. But like the evidence put out to us, it's just unlucky. And as Jason said as well, how often do we do these things and get very close and it doesn't happen to anything? He had no malice. There was nothing in it there. It was just unfortunate, really just unfortunate. Yeah, I don't, obviously unlucky for the person. Thankful that the person's, only got those types of injuries and nothing a lot more severe. Hopefully the victim's been looked after pretty handsomely and medically as well. And but I don't think there's too much in it. Hopefully these kids are getting that.
Jake, I'll introduce yourself as well. Welcome to the last one. We made it through to 2024. You got anything else to add regarding the Sandon Smith case?
Firstly, I do think we made it through. Well, we have made it through 2024. It's very exciting. I haven't got much to add, to be honest with you. I just think as long as, for me, obviously accidents do happen, and as long as he wasn't under any sort of influence, I'm happy with, as long as that victim was, compensated pretty generously for the injuries that sort of went through, like Trav said, that happened to him. I think there's, obviously harm done, but not intentional, and accidents do happen, and these things do happen. But as long as he wasn't under any influence and it wasn't due to him doing anything wrong per se, I'm pretty happy with where it ended and how it ended. I don't think that it needs to go any further. That's for sure.
He wasn't under drug or alcohol influence, was he, Jace?
Yeah.
No, there's absolutely no reports or anything about that at all. And if he was, I think the charge would have been upgraded, or they would have had much more additional charges.
Yeah, I don't think either anything has come out from the NRL side of things. I don't think really they have to, but I believe he's all good. He's all free to play in round one now. So there was some question marks when this all first happened and no one knew details. They always just assume the worst. But from what I believe, the NRL hasn't come out. No need to at this stage. They're probably sorting out the next case we'll talk about. But Sandon Smith, by all reports, and I believe, is good to play for round one. Jace, have you heard anything different there, or that's pretty much confirmed?
No, that's my understanding as well. The NRL is not going to take any further action. And I would say, just from my understanding, first of all, the victim would be entitled to a victim's compensation because there has been a guilty verdict, which he pled guilty. So the victim would be entitled to some compensation. And I'm sure I can't say for certain, but I'm sure the NRL or the Roosters would have looked after that guy quite quickly. Because flowing from that could be a negligence or a tortious case against Sandon Smith for doing the wrong thing, which is basically, suing for money. So I'm pretty sure that they would have got on top of that straight away and looked after the victim.
Yeah, no, and again, I echo what Trav said. It's great to get your insights with this sort of thing, and hope our viewers moving forward will really appreciate this. Let us know and shoot us to a few comments, and make sure you give Xvisory some love on the social media pages as well. But like you've all basically said, like it's an accident, a freak accident, really. If anything, it just gives us a reminder to make sure you give that extra second or two and make sure things are safe and make sure everyone around you is safe getting in the car, things like that. We all know how quickly it can go the wrong way, unfortunately. So make sure we're just going and taking that extra taking that 5 seconds out of your day really is nothing by the time you go to lay down in bed and go, glad I took that 5 seconds. So next case here, which is obviously going to be the big one, guys, we're going to sort of, give you a bit of a warning that this could get heated just in terms of some passion, because this has been something where we've spoken about it a couple of times now. And we've always said we wanted to wait until the courts came out, this case got done, and know all the details of everything that came out, and then we'll give our proper opinions on things. Now we're lucky enough to have Jace with us, who will confirm everything with us, explain the court side of things, and then maybe try and explain to us when we give our passionate views on things, why or why not it went the way it did, which is awesome once again to be able to have that. I don't think there's any other podcast out there that can do this from a rugby league point of view. So just quickly, I'll give you what News Corp has said, just a quick paragraph of what happened here. So according to News Corp, Mam pleaded guilty to 1 count of driving while the relevant drug is present in blood and driving without a license. He was handed a $850 fine and his license was disqualified for at least 6 months. Jason, good luck. Please let us know what happened here.
First of all, there's a huge difference between Sandon Smith in this case. This one is definitely worse, and the impact on others was definitely worse. And what's worse about it is driving without a license as one, and also the presence of cocaine. Now, we've discussed this briefly when we spoke about the Josh Adokar incident. So there is a difference between being impaired by drugs and alcohol and then having drugs and alcohol in your system. They are usually different sections and different charges of the relevant act. I'm not sure which one's in Queensland. But it's 111 in New South Wales, I think we discussed before. And basically, it's the difference between having a drink and being under the limit, or having a drink and having a few too many drinks and being over the limit. So in this instance, it's essentially having drugs in the system, so being under the limit of impairment. So there was, technically, according to the law, there was no impairment, but he did have drugs in his system. I think what's worse is driving without a valid license. It was a head-on collision. Very, very fortunate that the victims only had minor injuries. And it's one of those things where it could have been avoided, I think, if he wasn't on drugs, because at the time that he's tested, there is a presence and there is an inference that you can draw in this situation that he may have been taking drugs and then driven. So I hope that's not the case, but that's what the inference is here, that there was cocaine in his system. He's gone driving without a valid license, which is quite silly and obviously not in the right state of mind at that time. And then he's had a head-on collision. So I think it's quite a very dangerous, very serious situation. And I think he's got on the lower end of penalties. Having your license disqualified can be just for speeding and speeding alone without hurting anyone. An $850 fine is very low in the circumstances. And I think what has saved him is probably a very good legal team who have checked him into a rehabilitation program. And he did that for 4 weeks. He's obviously got some great references from the NRL or others in the football community. It seems to be that it was his first offence and our first driving offence, as I understand it. So all of those things put together, I think, has got him a lower penalty. But in the overall scheme of things, I think it was very, very, very lucky that nobody died. And I think, as I think Joel said in his post, I think that's a big deal. It's not as important in the legal sphere because you only can be charged with what occurs. It may have been something raised in sentencing, especially by the prosecution. The prosecution would definitely say this is very lucky that no one died, so it's a more serious offence. And his defence lawyers might say, well, nobody was hurt, and it's lucky that nobody was hurt, but nobody was hurt, so it's on the lower end, and all the other things that I said. So, look, for me personally, I think it's quite bad. From a legal point of view, I think he's got the lower end and probably got a great legal team that's helped him get this, I would say, a very good outcome.
Hey, Jace, can I get you to clarify something for me?
Sure.
Has there been any news around that unlicensed driving that he had around, why is he unlicensed?
I'm not sure why he was driving without a valid license. I think the way that it's worded, driving without a valid license, means that it's an expired license. So he would have had a license and it hasn't been renewed. That's the way it's worded. But I don't know why he hasn't renewed his license.
Yeah. So it's too hard. You can't make inferencing from any of that because we don't know really.
No, but the way that it's been reported is that without a valid license, not without a license. So that would insinuate that it hasn't been renewed. That he had a license, but it hasn't been renewed.
But is it not being renewed because of an offence, or is it not renewed because he just forgot and it expired? Or
yeah, I don't know. We could potentially find out and look deeper into that. It's a good question. I'm not sure.
Jace, just before I throw to the boys and get their passionate views on things, I know they're both ready to fire up for this one. And can I just, because there's a lot of people out there that comment on the post, and I've got DMs galore about this and stuff as well, is the fact that it just feels like in the judicial system, and I can only say what I've been reading and stuff, and I know there's probably people listening to this screaming it at their cars or whatever going, but how come it's a bigger fine if you're caught with your phone in your hand than it is if you're driving with drugs in your blood? We're gonna say here, unlicensed, clearly doing the wrong thing to severely injure a child, and your fine is less monetary wise than it would be to have a phone in your hand.
Well, the response is, first of all, there is that difference between impairment versus presence. So the way the mobile phone laws work is that you are so distracted that you would be impaired from driving. The way this charge or this part of the law works is that it's recognizing that you've done the wrong thing in terms of taking illegal drugs or illegal substances, but the court can't be certain that you were impaired. So it's a lesser charge than impairment. It's just saying there is presence, but they can't be certain whether or not that the drugs actually affected your driving. So that's why.
Can I just say with that, and this is having to go at the court system. We are all told from a very young age at school in lessons and that how much drugs affect you and how much it can impact your decisions and that. How can they say that there was drugs in his system, but they can't clarify if it affected him? I think it's general knowledge that if you have something in your system, whether it's drugs or alcohol, it affects you in some way.
Well, can I speak to that one?
Yes.
So you have, like, let's say, for example, marijuana, let's say, stays in your system for, it can stay in your system for, like, be recognized in your system for a long time, like for months, but it can not be affecting you past.
I think it's up to 3 months.
Yeah, it can still be recognized. So things like that can be recognized as being in your system, but not necessarily don't have to have just done them. I don't know about cocaine specifically, though. If you said that he's been on
3 days, I think.
3 days.
3 days.
So
there you go. So it might have been potentially, I don't know, of course, might have been like.
Was it confirmed, Jace, that it was cocaine? Because I heard rumors about it being cocaine in his system.
I did a lot of searches to get what was reported. So Courier Mail, news.com.au, Fox Sports all said cocaine. So I'm assuming that it was. Yeah,
and the judge in their speech said that it was cocaine.
Yeah.
Okay. And they worded that as being, so he was not under the influence. He just had them in his system.
So yes, so there has to be a distinction, because unfortunately Australia is quite far behind, like you say, UK and Norway, who are leading this drug impairment type laws, where they've established, just like with alcohol, they've established a certain range and a way of testing to see whether or not you have been impaired. Well, in Australia, that really doesn't exist. So it's basically determinative on if there's enough evidence, or if the police believe that you were impaired because of the drugs. That's when they will charge you with impairment. But that's the same if they think you're too tired. So that's the state of our law at the moment, and we're not at that higher level of technology and science, which is being pushed by the UK and Norway, where they have actually set parameters and understand the science and have testing measures to say when you're impaired and when you're not, just like we do with alcohol. So that's something that hopefully in the future, and it is being pushed with law reform. It is being pushed all around Australia to get to that stage, but we're just not there yet.
Yeah. Jace, can you clarify something else for me? Cocaine's illegal, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when it's found in someone's system, how is that person not charged or doesn't have any conviction to it?
Yeah, well, I don't think possession, because the charges are either possession or supply. So I'm not sure at what level a prosecutor would be willing to argue that possession means in your blood. So
Do you possess something that is within you?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if a prosecutor would be ballsy enough to say that he was possessing cocaine that was within his blood.
So
isn't that right there?
Distinguish. That's So you're taking my words there, Joel. Go.
Yeah. That's straight away from mine. I don't know. Like, again, you can cover us here, Jace, but for me, straight away, that just looks to me like a huge fault in the judicial system, that knowing that they've taken an illegal substance. Like we see the RBT shows and stuff, like they're testing for people taking this stuff, but then if they don't have it in their car, can they technically charge them then? Because it's showing up on the system that they've taken it, but like it's illegal. Like they've just known they've taken an illegal substance that impacts their driving capabilities.
I'll give you the technicality. The technicality is there's no law against consumption.
But they had to have possessed it before they consumed it.
Yes.
So it's
but
it doesn't just magically fall in their body.
And no, you're 100% right, but that's the technicality. There's a difference between supply and possession, and then there's a difference between presence and impairment, and that's. I just
read something from New South Wales government. So you may receive a 24-hour driving prohibition if your second oral fluid test is positive. Saliva sample will be sent to the lab analysis, and charges are only charged with an offence if the presence of a legal drug is confirmed by the lab. But it has been, so I'm confused. Like, it's been confirmed. So is it just a 24-hour driving?
It's a huge grey area. And Jace, honestly, we're going to push you to fix this up in our judicial system. You're going to take off with this podcast, and throughout 2025, we're going to get you to a point where you're making changes to this whole system, because one huge thing that has been said on this post from everyone almost is the rounding thing that this whole judicial system in this country at the moment, and we don't want to go too far into this being a league podcast, but it's a joke. Like, there's so many people out there that have commented going, this is a joke. The way it's viewed is a joke. And the way you're explaining it, and like you're just saying what the laws are, I think all three of us are sitting here going, we are very, very much confused, knowing full well what's happened and how it just doesn't make sense. Now, Jake and Trav, I'm going to let you go on a more personal front now. I'm going to let you have your say. Jake, I'll let you go first because I know Trav has a lot built up. I'll save him. But Jake, go. This whole Ezra Mams situation, we don't know anything yet about the NRL and their punishment so far. They still haven't come out and said anything. But what's your opinions on now what's happened, knowing what the details are?
Okay. So it's real hard to start because I just think it's such a joke. Like, it's so just almost disgusting is the word I want to use in terms of the fine that he was given. Like, I understand that, you know, he went to rehab beforehand and all this and all that, and I understand everything that's happened with it. I get it, but $850, he's like, what's he worth? What's his contract worth? Like
4,000,000
$800,000
5 years.
something like that, and they charge him $850. Like, that's just insane to me in the first place. I understand that the fine doesn't go off your value. I fully understand that, but at the same time, you know, $850. A child, like a little girl, plus others, but I always just for some reason go to the little girl. Like, a little girl could have been killed, like in that, and other drivers and himself. Like, heaps of people could have been harmed. So many more people. He was on a road, you know, with other people driving, and obviously not in his right mind and whatever. Like, so many people could have been injured. This was such a, I hate to say it this way, but this is such a good outcome in total because nobody died. Like, and to be charged $850 and you lose. One thing as well, he lost his license for 6 months, it said, but isn't he unlicensed? Like, so what are they taking from him? Nothing.
The inability to renew, I guess, for 6 months.
Okay.
They obviously didn't want to do it in the first place.
Yeah. So yeah, it's such a difficult thing for me to even talk about because I just it's so unfathomable to me that is the result. I can't get behind it at all. I'm not happy with it, but I don't know how else I can say it without swearing and being very mad at it. So I'm happy to just basically pass my up to Trav because I think he'd be able to put it a bit more, elaborate a little bit more than I would. But I'm not happy. I'm very unhappy with the way it's gone personally. I think he deserved jail time. If I'm being honest with you, that's my say on that.
Before Trav goes off, just one thing you say there, and I get goosebumps every time someone says it, is the child comment, because straight away as fathers here and stuff, you think of your kids. And if that ever happened to one of your kids and this is the punishment that came down for that person who did it, I'm telling you now that you don't want to know what we'd do. It's that's, if I was them right now, I'd be feeling sick in the stomach. I'd be physically sick because I just think this has made a huge mockery of the system and what could have happened. It feels like in a way our judicial system is so reactive and not proactive. Get on the front foot with this stuff. Make sure it tells people this is the punishment that's going to happen if you do this, and make sure people don't do it because of the punishment if they get caught or something happens. It's just going to be too harsh to go, I don't want to go away for 15 years. It's going to ruin my life. I don't care if you're a general person on the street or if you're an NRL footballer or a politician. If you do the crime, you do the time. I'm sick of all the money that being thrown around. It makes me sick. When you hear that kid stuff, it gets me every time. I get goosebumps. It's not good. Trav, here's your time. I know you were very, very patient when it came to all this. And the first time we spoke about it, you were very, very, I wouldn't say political, but you were very polite around everything because you just wanted to wait. You wanted to see what was going to happen. Off you go. I know you've been waiting for this.
No, and you've built this up for me to make this big spectacular thing that everyone's going to come. We're going to get thousands and thousands of views, and shit's going to go. What is it? Viral.
Hey,
you've all summed it up really well, and my opinions really well. Probably because I've written a lot of this stuff in the group, so you've all been able to sort of digest it all, and which is good. But yeah, I'll put a few points out there. Approximately $1,100. So approximately $1,100 and 4 demerit points for someone to drive without a seatbelt in. Okay. That's one. Approximately $1,100 and 4 demerit points for someone to play with their phone and drive. Doesn't have to cause anything, doesn't do anything, but is doing that and driving, and that's the fine you get, and that's the punishment for it, right? I know someone very close to me who's just got a $330 fine for doing 44 in a 40 zone. 4Ks above the speed limit in a 40 zone, $330 fine, 1 demerit point. Okay. But whether we're impeded, I like that those terms that Jace is talking, like, are obviously the law, and that's what's been put out. But what absolute garbage, right? So, Joel, you touched on this really well before with the question that you asked to Jace. Jace, I'm not having a go at you, and this is not me going at you, but you said the point. You know, we've been told right from a very young age, and if I look at anything, right, a drug in your system is essentially something that is affecting you, right? It's affecting you, and the smallest amount of it can affect you. And it was in his system. Now you're trying to tell us that it was in his system, and it didn't impede him. What, is that the term, Jace? It's not impeding his
not impairing his driving.
Impairing his driving, right? But it's in his system. So it's like he's had 2 beers, but he's not over the limit. So essentially that's what it's saying. Yeah. No, to me, that's garbage. Drugs are way worse than alcohol. That's just complete garbage, right? But so here's what it is. And he's just got $850 fine and 6 months without a license, which he already didn't obviously care about. Because if I'm going to give him the leeway here and say he was just lazy, the season got strong and he was just lazy and he forgot to renew his license. Although he'd get it reminded through a text message and a couple of emails and, but yeah, you just must have missed them. So I'll give him that credit. But then, so make sense of that. So make sense of those fines. You don't have to do anything, but yet you're going to get them. But that's what he's got. And he's being convicted of driving unlicensed under some sort of influence, whether it's impeded him or not, but under some sort of cocaine, like what cocaine. He's driven and this girl's got hurt, but she hasn't had toes severed. So it's not grievous bodily harm. And that's all he's got. All because he's rich enough on his $4 million contract that he probably didn't pay a single cent for and got put into rehab. I'd say Broncos probably did that for him. And he's gone and done that and he's got off, right? So, to me, this is just, I'm just dumbfounded. Jay summed it up really well. He's obviously got a good legal team, which he's going to have. He's probably paid none for the Broncos. He's gone to rehab. That's given him a goodwill gesture, right? So yeah, awesome, good job. And he's been able to get that shit, man. It's infuriating to me, and I'm holding it together that I don't unleash and don't break my screen, because it's just infuriating to me that the everyday person, all 4 of us here in this podcast, go and do that. We're knackered. I don't have the financial means to go and put myself in 4 weeks worth of rehab as a goodwill gesture. I don't have the means to pay tens of thousands of dollars to a legal team to take me to go and do this sort of stuff. I don't have that. I don't have the means or the nous to go and get, character witnesses and get things written up for me. Like it's just garbage. And the only reason why this has happened is because he's Ezra Mams and he's the 5'8" for the Brisbane Broncos and one of the biggest in one of the biggest leagues, one of the biggest teams or franchises in the competition. It just does my head in. And then Joel, as you said, and you've stolen the words straight out of my mouth, the system is ridiculous in terms of, and our society is ridiculous in the way that we are reactive and not proactive. And I've said it so many times. on these podcasts in all aspects, right? We don't punish. We only punish, or we only give bigger consequences based off what the severity of the consequence that happened to the victim. So like if the dude's knocked out, we take it, well, let's go into our game. If a dude's knocked out, okay, he's given a very severe consequence because you knock someone out. But you go and do the same hit with the same intent, but the guy didn't get knocked out. Well, you don't get as much of a consequence. But how are we stopping? All you're doing is rewarding. You're rewarding that. You're not stopping the action. We need to get to a point where we stop the action of stupidity. Instead of and get into the minds of people to say, stop doing that. Oh, I'm about to do. Oh no, I better not. I'm going to get this. Instead of going, okay, well, here, and I'm going to go have a couple of nights ago or last night, I'm going to go and have a bender on cocaine. Oh, yeah, but I don't have a license. I'm going to go for a car. I'm going to go for a drive because all I'm going to get is an $850 fine. That's it. That's all I'm going to get. It just, this shit just does my head in, man. It does my head in. And if that was my daughter that's been severely harmed and got hurt, but because it didn't lose a finger, it's not grievous bodily harm, I don't know what I would do. I certainly would have been at court with that whilst that verdict was being given and be very loud because that's just complete garbage. Just complete garbage.
James, was there actually no charges for that, injuring the girl?
Driving, no, don't think so. Because I think that the injuries were so minor that it didn't amount to any
It's
elements of
always
a charge.
interesting.
I
It's something-
thought she
Sorry.
thought she broke a rib. I thought she like broke a rib or something. That's what I remembered. We were talking about a while back, but maybe no, I was wrong.
I'm not sure because if there was no charge for like causing any harm to the victims at all, then it's likely that they've got maybe just like bruising or something like that. Like there's no actual severe physical harm. But I'd have to look more carefully. I've only looked at 3 or 4 different sources, so I actually don't know. But that would have been reported definitely, because he would have been charged with something of the like some sort of driving and causing harm, something like that. I'm not sure what the Queensland charges are, but there would be something like that.
We have to move on from this, but I got one more question for you. With his whole going into rehab side of things, do the courts actually take that into their decision? Like, does that actually help make their decision more lenient?
I'll briefly explain it, and I also might just briefly play devil's advocate, because what happens in this situation is the finding of guilt has already been made by the defendant. So he pleads guilty. So there's no need to go into the culpability aspects of it in terms of guilt. Then when it comes to sentencing has what's called mitigating factors. So it's basically, as a defendant, you tell the court why you shouldn't get the maximum penalty, and these are the reasons why the penalty should be reduced. So in this instance, he's apparently, and it's been reported that he showed expressed deep remorse. There was a formal apology to his victims, to his team, to his supporters, to the public at large. He did do the 4 weeks at Bayern's healthcare facility, which is a rehabilitation program. And I'm sure somewhere in there as well, great references. The Brisbane Broncos saying that they'll make sure he does the right thing. He was put into a reality check type unpaid labor on a construction site for a few weeks as well. So there's all these factors that when it comes to sentencing, the court will take into consideration, because basically just in a few responses, Trav, and again, it's just for the discourse of this whole situation, is what often is the view of the court is that people do make mistakes. So you're pretty much, depending on the degree of, I guess, the incident and what occurs, everyone is pretty much allowed one mess up in their life if it goes to court. Now, I'm not talking about murder or anything like that, but these sort of situations, and often when people have found presence of drugs, possession of drugs, all that sort of stuff, even drink driving, you are almost, not always, but the starting point is almost like everyone gets one stuff up, right? So if the court didn't take that type of view, then we would be like America, where pretty much you always get the maximum penalty, and it's very difficult to show mitigating circumstances or mitigating factors to reduce your penalty. So that's the way our system works, and I think that is what works for everyone. Because if one day you do the wrong thing, even it might be accidentally or negligently or recklessly, at least the court will view you as in, this is the first time you've come to the court, this is your first offence, and treated accordingly, depending on the severity of the circumstances. So things like traffic lights and speeding, that's a completely different area of law. They're what's referred to as strict liability offences, which means there's a very limited defence. So there's not much you can do about those types of things. You've done it, too bad. But in these situations where there's a bit more discretion, that's when these factors come into play, and there's a higher likelihood of getting a lower sentence. So, but for instance, like when I used to do some criminal work, I don't do that anymore. I had a client who was high range drink driving, but I got him a 2-year conditional release order because of the factors that were considered in the situation mitigated his circumstances because he drunk the bottle of, I think it was scotch or bourbon the night before, and then he's woken up early for his shift and not had breakfast, and then he still had enough alcohol in his system the next morning. So because of those circumstances, he wasn't given the same penalty as a high range. He was given a low range penalty of a conditional release order. But that's just an example. So just to give you some examples, but look, I totally understand the personal point of view. But if we lived in a more American type system, I think everyone would still complain about that as well. So it's very hard to please everyone.
We have to move on from this. We have some other stuff on the show to get to and make sure it's on a 2-hour podcast. Just one final thing, because I know you're explaining things from the court side of things. And I don't know if the other boys here or anyone else is listening, but in a way, I got my blood boiling even more because it just feels like, and I'm not having to go at all, but first of all, I want to call out the stuff that you mentioned after the incident, and I feel like it's a major publicity stunt that's clearly worked in his favor, and I'm sick of punishments in general. When you're all happy to say sorry and stuff afterwards, you know you're doing the wrong thing. Don't do it in the first place. Punish that. He got in the car knowing full well what he had done beforehand. He still wanted to get in the car knowing that any turn could mean someone's life is in danger, and he still wanted to go ahead and do that. He wanted to jeopardize his contract. He wanted to get in the car, and he wanted to risk his $4 million 5-year contract. All this sort of stuff he decided to jeopardize. No one else, not that Uber driver, not that little kid, not the mother, no one else. He decided to do that. I know plenty of people in the past who have gone out to party and stuff. You know what they do the next day? Stay at home, watch a movie, chill out, relax. They don't get in a car and put others' lives at risk because they know the dangers to it. They know, first of all, that it's still in their system, so they're not going to do that. Secondly, they know the dangers behind putting someone else's life at risk. Yet it just feels like Ezra's sort of come out of this like he's bigger than the law, thinking he's king shit and he's untouchable in a way, and he can almost do what he wants. And this is just for some of this rugby league community in general. And that was some of the posts that you mentioned earlier that I put up. I'm just over it. I'm so over it. What's it going to take? Are we wanting to wait until a rugby league player kills someone? Is that what's going to happen? Like, the NRL hasn't put their punishment out yet, and maybe they will before people listen to this. Who knows? But I'm telling you now, NRL, you literally need to come down hard on this. I don't take away what the courts have done. You literally need to make a stance here, and you need to make sure every other league player that's coming through knows they're a different sort of person now. They're in the public eye. They need to behave. They want the millions of dollars. Start behaving like it. Actually pull your finger out. Act like an actual man. And actually start making man decisions. You want the big contracts? Well done. Your playing style and your playing skills got you there. Well done. Now start to actually prove to everyone in the community you deserve it. It's more than just on the field these days, this game. It's that big. You need to start making some better decisions in your life. And Ezra, for me, he should have his contract ripped up. You know what? I don't care about the 4 weeks on the tools. Go and have the rest of your life on the tools. Realize what you missed out on. I'm passionate about it because I just think it's pathetic. I really think it's pathetic, but that's me. That's it.
We don't know what the NRL are doing here, and let's hope. I'm 100% with you, mate. Here's the opportunity here. So the laws let everyone down in terms of specific wording of things, and the law has had to, and the judge has had to, give a verdict based off what the evidence put in front of him, based off what the written law is. Okay, so that's it. So that's what's happened. And everyone in the world, everyone in Australia that's been passionate about this or is looking at it is sitting there going, well, how does that make sense? But that's, as Jace has explained very well, that is what the world is written in, and that's how it's worded, right? And if everyone's given one mistake, okay, cool. How many times have those one mistakes has led to way worse injuries, but they're allowed to have one mistake? So, I can have one mistake, but I'm not going to go and, do cocaine and go for a drive on a license without a license. There's so many things that are just that just don't make sense to me. But you're right, Joel, and here's where I agree with you entirely. I've agreed with you the whole time, but I agree even more is that this is an opportunity for the NRL to fix some things and really make a stand. Right? They've got to stand here. So he has been convicted of this, that he pled guilty. These are the things he's done. Let's make a stand. And I'm imploring the NRL to actually do that right now. And I really want everyone to really speak very loudly to the NRL and to anyone that they can to go, this is an opportunity to punish a player in a very severe context or consequence because of things. Right? They banned bloody Bronson Cherry for years, right?
For a performance enhancer.
For performance enhancing. Right.
Yeah.
So the only thing that he affected himself was himself. Like, okay, so maybe he made himself so bloody big or so bloody strong that he might hurt someone else. Okay, well, cool. You're right. But that they banned him for 3 years. Right. So
For
4. Here's a dude who's just gone and done some illegal drugs, driven illegally, caused an illegal accident. Come on. I really want everyone to start really talking loudly about this.
And lastly, credit to Ezra Mams' legal team. Obviously, they've done a really good job of what they needed to do, and they've got what they wanted out of it. I just think it's been the wrong way it's been handled. But yeah, that's it. We'll move on to a bit of NRL news. So Jonah Pezzett reportedly has re-signed with the Storm, a long extension. I think it's through to 2028. But there's reportedly a player option in there. If Jerome Hughes does re-sign with the club, he is free to negotiate and leave. That is what is being reported. Storm have not yet confirmed this extension, so who knows what part of that is true, if it is true. But that is what is being reported. Jake, get your thoughts. Jonah Pezzett staying at the Storm, surprising, or you think it's a decent option there with that player option?
Oh, I think with the player option, if I had to pick to go to 2 different teams out of the Knights and the Storm, I think I definitely would pick the Storm, to be completely honest with you, because they have superior systems and it's been shown for years that they show success. And he's played there and he's shown success when he's been on the field as well, stuff like that. I think having those player options and knowing he has security and being able to go and be a main half at another team is a good thing. Especially with a little bit more experience. Like, it's not going to hurt him to get a little bit more experience at the Storm before then going somewhere. The only way I can see it it's a player option for him to leave, actually, so that's not even true. I was going to say, if he got injured or something, his worth might go down to another club, but, he still has that player option to stay at the Storm then and do that. But, yeah, it's an interesting one because he had the option to basically become one of the highest paid players in the competition, having barely played a starting role kind of thing over at the Knights. But I think I would do what he did. He did the right thing, I think, by sticking around at Melbourne and seeing what they decide to do, and then backing himself to be in a better position by the time that comes around to get to another club.
Trav, you're the Storm fan. Must be happy.
Oh, yeah, of course I am. Yeah, because, based off talent, based off potential, of course I'm happy that he's going to be there till at least after 2028. I wouldn't have held it against him, and I've said this in other podcasts with other things. I wouldn't have held it against him. If you can get paid, go and get paid. And if that's what you want to do, if that's what you take, do it. These guys are athletes that potentially, on average, I think the average is 5 years of length in this in the competition, right? So if you can go and hook yourself up with 2.5 to play for 4 years, and 2.5 million is a lot of bloody money. Like my wage, it takes me 20 years to get there, and he's going to get that in 4, and he'll be 26, right? So he's 21 right now. He turns 22 in February. There's this talk of the Jerome Hughes thing, but there was also talk that Su'Afa'alongo had a contract clause that if Brad Pappenhausen signed, which he could get out, well, that hasn't gone anywhere, and he's just signed for another year, so he's 2 years. So, if it was going to happen, it would have happened. Something would have been done now. So, I need to see it, and once it's there, I'll believe it. But in saying that, if I was him, in 2 years' time, he's 24, turning 25. He's in the peak of his powers. And more than likely, Jerome Hughes is going to go somewhere else because the Storm will say, look, you're 32, 33. We're not going to pay you a big amount of money. Go to the Dolphins. Go to Papua New Guinea. Go to the Bears. Go and do something like that and finish your career on big, big dollars. The Storm generally will do that. We don't hold out. We just watch Gutho do that for at Para. So, like, it happens to those elite players at the end of their careers to go and get paid big dollars. So, I dare say that happens. You've also got Munster. He's there till the end of 2027. He's 1.1 million. He'll be almost 35 at that point. So, like, you know, there's two big names who are the best in their spots or close to the best in their spots that he's going to jump in at as a 24-year-old, ready to go and do a bit of an apprenticeship type thing. So I think he's made a good move. I can't say it's the right move, as what Jake has said, because at the end of the day, the right move is what he values the most. And clearly right now he doesn't value money as his priority. But yeah, I love it. Happy with him.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it as well in terms of, from a Melbourne Storm point of view, I think it's terrific business to keep one of the up and coming good young halves. There's not many out there at the moment, so to keep one of them on board is awesome. Funnily, we spoke about it as well. I don't know where he is in the pecking order with Wishart there still, so I still feel like Wishart's above him and before him. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, he's coming off that injury this year as well, Pezzett. So see him come back next year and really hit the ground running. Jason, I'm going to throw to you for the next one. Leo Thompson, he's told the Knights he's going to leave the club at the end of this season. Where will he go? Where do you think he's going to go? He's heavily linked to both the Bulldogs and the Raiders at the moment. Do you think one of those clubs, or do you think there's a smoky?
I wouldn't mind him to come to Parramatta, to be honest. I don't think he's a decent player. But, yeah, look, if I feel like if it's – we said the Raiders or the Dogs – I feel like the Dogs have still got a lot of money to throw around, and they're still building their team. But Canberra is – sorry? I
said how? Where's it all coming from? They've made so many signings.
The Roosters are giving donations.
it's a special skill to know how to work the salary cap. Good old Gus. But Raiders are in need of fresh players. I feel like the Raiders – their forward pack is not as, I guess, pungent. I guess it used to be a really good pack that would just punch the line. You'd be scared of them. Now I think it's, you know, they're not as great as they used to be, and maybe Raiders should go hard for him and get him into their pack.
They need a replacement for Josh Papali'i as well, so that's where it might come into handy. Jake, with the Raiders, though, how overs do you think they need to pay to lure that quality of player to Canberra? Because let's face it, and sorry, Canberra fans, I know there's a few out there, but it's not the best place to live, especially for a number of years, which he would be getting. He'd be getting probably a 3 to 4 year contract at least.
Well, okay. So I saw that his value, and this is what's interesting about this one, is I saw his value is 900K. He's estimated at 900K by the NRL. And so are you, as Canberra, going to pay much more than that for a prop? You like, yes, he might be worth it, but you're not paying $1 million. You're not paying over $1 million for Leo Thompson. I'm sorry. He's a great player, and I would love to have him, obviously, like I was talking about before. I'd love to have him at the Eels as well. But at 900K, I don't want to do that to us again. And I wouldn't want to do that as most clubs, to be honest with you. So the club, like, I can't see the Raiders doing that to themselves. And 900K is more than I'd ever pay for a prop in the first place. And I think I don't see how upwards you can go from that with it. I don't think they do it. Like, I don't know. That's why I find it so difficult. 900K there is stretching it thin, very thin. Like, they might need a prop, but you can get good quality props that aren't $900,000 a year. So I don't think they would pay overs for him, to be honest with you. I think they'd put out an offer that seems like very similar or close, maybe, and that'd be that. I also am surprised that I haven't seen the Tigers gunning for him, and they've surely got still some money.
May now. They got May now. They got
need him.
the Sharkies as well. They got Royce Hunt.
Royce Hunt. But imagine May and
I don't think they have the money. I don't think they've got the money. I feel like they're starting to get a bit stretched thin. So I've heard a lot of people talk about Thompson. Look, I think he's a good player. Do not get me wrong, but he's nowhere near for mine a $900,000 player yet. He's had patches of being like a really good front row of our competition, but for mine, he hasn't consistently done it to be warranting that sort of dollar figure. And
What do you think
getting
then?
that, if I was his manager, I'd be starting to warn him about, if you want to go to one of these clubs that will give you that sort of money, you're going to be under a lot of pressure. And do you actually want to wear that pressure over the next 4 or 5 years, knowing that they're giving you that money? They might not be that competitive. They might not be in the premiership window and things like that. So yes, the money's great, and we all love the money side of things. And I know players, that's their big carrot. But at the same time, if I was his manager, I'd be saying, you know what? Why don't we look at those 750 offers and go to a club that we dead set feel like if we go there, we're winning a premiership in the next 3 years. That's where I would be going. And I'd take the hit. And the big concern for mine now is the Newcastle Knights, because he's gone. If Pongo leaves this club, I have so many concerns around him. It is not funny. I think they could honestly go on like a 3-4 year run of spoons. I don't know what's happening up there. Clearly something's not right. They've just signed his brother, for crying out loud. And then within the next couple of weeks after that, he tells the club he doesn't want to be there anymore. So who knows? It doesn't make sense. I don't like it.
That's usually the lifeline play to try and keep someone like,
Yeah.
sign your sibling so you can be with him. He's going, I don't like my brother. Why you signing?
I wonder if it's a package deal. I wonder whoever signs Leo, if they get the package deal and the brother goes, because I think the brother's only on a 1 year deal for now with the Knights. So it'll be interesting. Trav, I'm going to throw to you first for the next one. I am a bit rushed for time, but Cam McInnes, 1 year extension with the Cronulla Sharks. That'll keep him at the club until the end of next year, 2026. Are the Sharkies now in a premiership window, you feel, over the next, let's say, 2 years? Do you think they can realistically win the competition?
They're in a premiership window. Yes, of course they are. They've also got AFB coming over. They've re-signed Cam McInnes. Cam McInnes is a freaking machine. And it's just that perfect spot for that list. They are in a premiership window and they're doing everything they can. Do I think they win one? No. But I can't write off Penrith. You cannot write them off. And I still think the Storm are miles above any other team other than Penrith. So I think they're there. They're going to be thereabouts. We said it in the review. But and Cam McInnes certainly shores up that line and makes them strong. But there's still way too many questions around what's going to happen in their halves. Hines, the loss of Atkinson. Is Will Kennedy an elite enough fullback to lift them in the fullback range? Does AFB really actually make a big change there? Yeah, no, they're there. They're going to be thereabouts, but no.
Jason, premiership window open for the Sharkies?
Look, as Trav said, AFB is a big deal. It's going to be big impact, and he's going to play well, and he's going to do a lot of great things. I still think, they're going to really, their spine needs some work. I'm not sure if Will Kennedy is that great fullback that they need. He to me is sort of like a Gutho, where he just does his job and he's good enough. They might need to look at younger fullbacks. I know there was, I can't remember his name now, but there was a young kid that was playing in the fullback there with a lot of speed. They might need to look back to him and maybe some changes in their spine.
Kay Dykes is one they've got.
Yeah, great. So look, maybe soon, but I don't think yet, because they've failed consecutively in finals. It seems like it's a problem for them as well. Cam McInnes, only 1 more year. What are they going to do after that? I'm not sure. They're a good team. They play well. They've got a lot of potential, but I'm just not sure that they're in that stage just yet.
Can I put something out there, Joel? I'll quickly put something out there, and then you
Go
guys
ahead.
can talk. They will be premiership contenders if they make some serious changes in 2025. Nico Hines to fullback, get rid of Kennedy, Atkinson to halfback, and Trindle to 5'8", or vice versa. I don't care. That will be their premiership go. And we said that in the review, and that's what they've got to do. He has to make some very serious changes if they want to be better than thereabouts. Because they will. They're easily going to be top 4. If they're not top 4, then something's drastically gone wrong. Fire the coach, all sorts of things, because that's their list is there. But they need to make those drastic changes. Nico Hines to fullback and Atkinson for the year, because he's gone to the Dragons in 26. But don't worry about that shit. Win 2025. That's what they've got to do.
I think that does make it a bit more mouth-watering, I think, for Sharks fans. Jake? premiership window, is it open? And do you think they're realistically a chance to win the comp?
I think everyone's technically a chance to win the comp. I think they're
Not everyone. Para, right?
No.
Dragons aren't.
You have to give everyone a chance.
Dolphins
There's always
aren't.
a fighting chance. There's always a fighting chance. There's always a fighting chance in sport. That's why we play it. Otherwise, what would be the point? Right?
To be that cocky when your team always goes well.
Yeah, fair. But look, all right, I'm going to say yes, they could technically win one. No, I don't think they will. Just pretty much same as what Trav said. I think that they could win one with the team they have. I like the thought of your changes, Trav. It's been a while since Nico's been at fullback. It has been a long time
2
since
years.
he's played there. Yeah, I know. 2 years. 2 years out of a position still, in the NRL. And you're playing fullback. He was playing fullback at the Storm. Storm have a magical little bubble of fullback at that area where no matter who they put there, they could put bloody Nelson Asofa Solomona back there. And do a good job.
Imagine that.
It makes no different. All right. When you play for the Storm, when you play for the Storm, if you're a Storm, if you're a fullback, you will do well. It's irrelevant, right? Bit different, potentially if he plays there at another club where he would be relied on to do a bit more than he did. So I'm going to say premiership window open. Will they win a premiership in the next 2 years, 3 years? No.
I think that's the resounding answer here. I feel like the fullback spot has become very quickly actually a huge concern in a way. I think Trav's idea is definitely one they can go for. I'm a huge fan of Cade Dykes as well, though. I think this kid can be anything almost, and it'd be a lot of pressure to come straight into a premiership side if we're going to say that, and that's what they need to get to reach that goal. I think he's got it in him. He's just been the last 2 years or so, he's just been injury-wise, his body's let him down a little bit. If he can get that right, I think he's got some. He's going to be putting a lot of pressure on Will Kennedy, and he's honestly that first month of footy for Will Kennedy is probably going to be the biggest 4 weeks of football he's probably ever had, because there's going to be a lot of pressure there. And then Hines, the halves, they've got to get that right. They've got the forward pack there now. I think they've got the outside backs there. They're just going to make sure that their halves gel the right way. They go the right way about it. Hines swallows his pride a little bit and lets Trindle organise his team and be the halfback moving forward. And if Hines is either the fullback or the 5'8", he takes that backward step and he actually becomes that sort of player and does that, because Atkinson leaving in 2026 is huge loss, but they've still got him next year and he's a hell of a player. He will help that club in no end. And the other left field option is put him back at fullback as well. He's a football player. He's a dead set footy player, and I'm sure he could do a job at the back there as well. So that's it. Let us know what you guys think as well in terms of can the Sharkies win that competition in the next 2 years. The other thing with McInnes, he's been a warrior. I feel like that will be his swan song year as well, 2026, because what he's put his body through is ridiculous. So what a warrior he's been at this game, and I can't wait to see him go out, hopefully maybe the right way in 2026, maybe lifting that trophy up, who knows. But that's it for our podcast. So just a couple of little quick announcements. So you've seen the post Supercoach draft announcement. It has been out. Spots filled up ridiculously quick, and I'm not just saying that literally. We've already got 3 live comps going now, with a 4th being opened up now. So if you want to be part of it, there's obviously plenty of time, but we do need to get sorted once the app opens up, finalize numbers, potentially an event happening around the draft night as well. We do need to lock in those spots quite quickly. So just message the page, Facebook or Instagram, again, or you can email if you want to have that have a shot at getting into the draft. It's going to be huge. Honestly, probably one of the biggest draft comps around for what's going to happen. And there's a cool little FA Cup style clash will be in the middle of the year as well, which is really cool feature we're going to have. Lastly, a Merry Christmas out there to everyone. Obviously, our last NRL podcast for the year. So Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Hope everyone is safe, has a great time, celebrates however you want over this festive season. But as we've already spoken about in this episode, and it's quite funny that we did speak about it on this episode, please just be safe and look out for those around you. Tell your loved ones you love them, all that sort of thing. Thank you to everyone out there who has listened, who has followed the page this year. The growth has just been out of this world. I know I keep saying it and it probably gets boring, but honestly, when I look back at the figures from Jan 1st to now, it honestly blows my mind how much we've grown this year. And it's a help to all the guys, not just the three here. There's other guys behind the scenes. There's everyone that's been part of a podcast throughout the year. There's guys that have helped the page grow immensely with just data, things like that as well. You've all done a huge job. League of Inches community as well. Anyone that's put sort of money towards the page as well, whether it's buying some merch, subbies, all that sort of stuff, being subscribers to YouTube, all that, it all helps. It's let us go to that next level. And there'll be a lot of announcements coming over the next couple of weeks. Keep tuning into our social media pages. But 2025, no word of a lie, is going to be huge. I think everyone here is pumped to be part of it moving forward. And there's some exciting announcements to come. So keep getting around us. Keep telling your friends and family about us, because we promise we will deliver the best content I think you've ever seen. 2025 is going to be next level. So thank you, guys. Jake, Jace, and Trav. Huge year. Thank you all you boys for being part of it. Bring on 2025.
Let's do it.